Some Democrats are urging to pack the court, add more members to the Supreme Court if they win a Senate majority in retaliation for Republicans supporting with President Trump's plan to fill the vacant Supreme Court seat before the election. Our next guest warns that could diminish the integrity of the court and will be introducing a constitutional amendment to prohibit packing the court. For an explanation, we've got with us right now from Atlanta, House Judiciary Committee member and U.S. Senate candidate from the great state of Georgia, Congressman Doug Collins. Congressman, good morning to you.
Good morning, Steve. It's good to be with you.
So what is your proposal?
Well, here's what we've seen the past 2 years. We have seen anytime the Democrats don't get their way, they want to change the rules. We saw it during sham impeachment. We saw it during, everything on the House side especially, and now it looks like the Senate's wanting to join in with this, is they just want to change the rules if they don't get what they want. So what we're going to say is this. If you want to pack the court, like Jerry Nadler, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee said, and others have said, then we want to put a constitutional amendment that said, let's take the heat of the moment out of this. Let's say the constitutional amendment said if you want to pack the court, then it doesn't take effect until 10 years after it is actually the constitutional amendment is actually approved. That way, if you're really serious about this, if you have a reason to expand this court beyond your momentary temper tantrum, then we actually will have something that you can go ahead with it, but it takes place 10 years after the heat of the moment that we're in. So I think what we need to do is take the emotion out of this, but quit always saying you want to change the rules when you don't get what you want.
Sure. Of course, a constitutional amendment, I don't have to tell you, it's tough. It's a high bar, so good luck with that. But can you explain why yesterday Joe Biden was asked by a Milwaukee television station, hey, would you pack the court? And he said, I'm not going to answer that. And how about your list of nominees if you were president? I'm not going to answer that either. What's up with Joe?
That's been the question for months now. What is up with Joe? I think he's been honestly too long in the basement. I just don't think he understands, what's going on. And it's really concerning. The American people need to really watch this. You have two candidates. Now, whether you want to vote for Joe Biden or you want to vote for the president, look at the difference in the two. The president is out leading. The president is out talking. He's doing every interview. He's doing town halls. He's doing everything he can to express what he wants to see the country is where the country, he took the country up until the pandemic and how he's fought and made the pandemic a fight that he wants to win, and now how we get the economy back. And Joe Biden just seems to get lost in his own thoughts, and that is concerning, especially when you have Kamala Harris talking about a Harris-Biden administration or a Harris administration. Right. There may need to be something we're looking at here. There may be a bigger play going on.
I think it's officially known as the Harris-Biden administration, according to what they said last week, Congressman. If the pick of the president is Amy Coney Barrett, and apparently he did meet with her at the White House, according to sources. She went through a ferocious confirmation fight in 2017, and it was the most ferocious parts were about her faith and about her religion. And I don't know how that would play if Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee were attacking somebody based on their Catholicism. I don't think with 30, 20, 10 days left before an election, that's going to go over well in Pennsylvania or other places.
I don't think it should go over anywhere very well. As a chaplain in the military, I've been in the military now for 19 years. I know what it's like to live in a pluralistic society. And what I've seen, unfortunately, Steve, is an attack on religious liberties. And many times from the left, they don't like the fact that someone has faith. And if they want to attack that faith issue, then we've got a bigger problem. That's never been something that our founders ever wanted to have happen. In fact, our religious beliefs were made in a pluralistic society. I want to have my faith and you have your faith, and we actually express that because that's who we are. And to attack someone on that, I think will not play very well, because anybody, no matter what faith you have or no faith, should be very concerned when that becomes an attacking point for someone wanting to sit on the court.
All right, Congressman Doug Collins down in Atlanta, flying up to D.C. a little later on today. Sir, thank you very much for starting your day with Fox and Friends.
Steve, it's always good to be with y'all. Take care.